Well, let's see, a couple of announcements we have coming up. We're starting a little early, aren't we? Sorry. Hey, we got some good visitors here with us. Thanks all the visitors for coming. This is the Entrepreneurship Lecture Series sponsored by Silicon Slopes and their group. It's been a great series this semester. We've had a lot of great speakers, and we have a super awesome today. We're really excited. Okay, by way of announcements, we have some events coming up. You can see those on the board. We got the Million Cups, the Entrepreneurs Launchpad, the Silicon Slopes Start Conversation. And I thought, just so you know, if you go to the Silicon Slopes homepage, you can click on events down here and go see all the events they have coming up. And they have quite a few. So these all typically would count as one of your networking events that you could go to. Is there anyone in particular that's really cool that you'd recommend coming up? Every one of them, right?
They're all great.
So what's the Diversity Career Fair on November 3rd? Okay. Well, look at them and see which one you like. There's plenty coming around the corner. I don't know how Clinton gets everything done. He stays very busy, but that's on the Silicon Slopes website. Then the other thing we mentioned last week was we have a new class coming up. Really excited about the venture capital class. That's going to be actually helping to teach students how do you look for investments, how do you look for startup businesses that have really good potential, and be able to vet them and make those determinations. So KK is here. Stand up, KK, everybody. So she's helping us spearhead the class. We got the class approved. Woohoo! And it's up on board now. So if you're interested, it's the MGMT Management, the 494 art class. Make sure you get section 601, 3 credits. It's on Thursday night at 5:30. You've got some of the best industry experts coming in to teach this class. It should be a really awesome class. 3 credit class, and then people in this class can also then look at advancing to a little higher level venture capital class where you're actually going to be investing money in some ventures that's part of that part of the next round program. So if you're at all interested in understanding how do you evaluate, how do you measure companies and their performance, how do you try to pick the winners and get to a point where you can invest in those, a great class to do that, taught by some excellent people. Then we have competitions coming up this Thursday. I'll point that out as the GSEA competition. We're down to 6 finalists. There will be 6 business pitches, and they will be presented to the EO.com organization. The winner of this competition will then go on to represent our region, the state of Utah, in the national competition in Kansas City, and then the winner of that goes up to Vancouver for the national competitions. Those events are paid for by the EO.com organization, plus they give you a fair amount of mentoring. So we're excited to see that happening this Thursday. If you need a networking event, want to come in and watch a couple business pitches, it's from 3 o'clock till about 7 o'clock, and it's in the classroom building, room 510, 511, kind of right in that area. Should be a fun event. There's some really good business pitches that are going to be happening there that you can see what other students are actually doing in the business development standpoint. So that's it there. The E-Club's been working pretty well. They've got some great things going. Contact Spencer Mortensen or Connor O'Keefe. They can get you more information on their events. They meet on Thursday evenings or Thursday time frame is typically when they get together. Okay, any questions? Anybody have questions on networking events, assignments, any of that stuff? Okay, last week I mentioned that we had identified the big idea winners. And I didn't have their names, but now I have their names. So these are the ones from it doesn't include October. We're working on Octobers. We'll have Octobers pretty quick. But these are the 8 winners of the Big Idea Challenge, and they all get $100. And Megan is the one that gets to make sure you get the money. But Adam Lisenby, are you here? Come on up. Tony Larios, Trevor Hansen, Tyler Algier, Michael Pfizer, Chase Mastrella, and Chase had 2 really good ideas apparently. I don't know if we can give 2. And then Asha Skousen. Any of you guys here. Come on, all right. So you're going to tell me real quick about what your big idea was, and then you don't have to divulge any trade secrets. Just what was the problem and what's your solution?
Okay, so I worked in the jewelry industry for quite a few years, and one problem that I've kind of recognized is that there's a lot of people, especially like in Utah, I feel, that come in to the jewelry store and want a very specific ring, and they're usually on a really short time frame, and the turnover isn't quick enough. So, and that's mainly just because most of these rings have to be CAD designed, and the printing process and finishing process is a long time. So I wanted to make an app that jewelry stores could have that they put on like devices throughout their store where they can just bring customers up to it. It already has presets of like CAD imaging, so they can pretty much pick and choose different aspects of different rings they want and build it themselves, and then ready to print within, right then. So that's kind of my idea.
Excellent. Okay, let's hear it. That's good.
So I come from an agricultural background, and I've just been able to see, as I've been in university, a lot of room for disruption in that industry. And so, without giving too much information, I'm going to use technology to be able to provide a better experience for both consumers and producers, to be able to cut out the middleman, to cut out the grocery store. So that's kind of the basic idea.
Cool. Oh yeah.
So I was up here last week, but I'll just say it again. Mine is for engaged couples, basically, who are able to rent their decorations for their reception from someone like you and I to save them money and also storage space when they get married and move into a small apartment.
Okay. Cool. Let's hear it. All right. Thanks, you guys. See, it's not that tough. I mean, just think of a problem or a challenge you're having in your everyday to-day life, and the chances are you're not alone. And you can develop solutions and ideas that then could lead into businesses. So great job, you guys. We're here to help you advance those ideas. So come and talk to us, and we'll see what we can do to help you keep moving along the process. Okay, Clint Betts is here. We always love it when he's here. He's going to introduce our next speaker. And you can tell any stories you want about her. She's awesome.
All right, real quick. Remember last week I gave away free tickets to everyone in this class to Silicon Slopes Tech Summit? Is Cameron here, our intern? He's not. Mark, I'll have you send out the link to all the students. Will that work? SiliconSlopesSummit.com. Mark will send you a link. Anybody who wants to go to that thing. It's 2 days. All meals taken care of. It's going to be amazing. All right, so today's speaker is my favorite person in the entire world. And that's not an exaggeration. Mary is someone I have known my entire life. She is inspiring. She is one of the greatest leaders I've ever met. And she's one of these rare people who gives without any expectation of return. And just is the most genuine, loving, amazing person you will ever meet. It's such an honor to have her here. Please welcome Mary Kratz.
Does this make my butt look fat? I don't know. There? No?
Okay. We here?
Hello?
There you go.
That's it? Excellent. Okay. I have to have all my tools. I have to have tissue. I have to have lip gloss because I have dry mouth. I have to have water. Get all set. I don't know why sometimes, where do you put this on this slanty thing? Okay, here you go. Notes in case I decide to say something that I thought about earlier. Okay, so in order for you to think that I'm important enough to listen to, I'm going to give you a little background about who I am, other than just Clint's most important person in his world, his favorite person. I started my company 34 years ago, pulling a little red wagon around the neighborhood, selling cookies and bread door to door with my 2 small boys, because I knew that I was going to be the principal breadwinner of my family. And from that, Culinary Crafts has grown to be the largest off-premise caterer in the state of Utah. We are 16 times Best of State, International Caterer of the Year. I've won Outstanding Business Award for Woman of the Year twice. One of Utah's 30 Women to Watch. Pathfinder Award this year, International Caterer of the Year, International Wedding of the Year. I have a boatload of awards in my lobby. So all those things are supposed to stand for what I'm about. But when people make introductions of me, the pieces that they don't say are, yes, you received that award 15 years ago of one of Utah's, 17 years ago, one of Utah's 30 Women to Watch. But what they don't say is in the middle of that presentation in the ballroom of the Little America, because the Grand America wasn't built yet. In the ballroom of the Little America, up on stage, 30 women that Utah was to watch. My husband, at the time, stood up in the middle of the room, threw his napkin down the table, and shouted, "It should be called 30 Bitches to Watch," and walked out. This was, like, for me, the time of my lifetime. And that's the life I lived. People don't tell that part about me. They don't tell that I was born in Iowa, raised in a small town of 250 people, that my father never made more than $35,000 a year, and yet he was the wealthiest man in town. Because he was an entrepreneur like I've never seen. He looked for a need and then solved it. The people in that little farming community needed a grocery store, he opened one. They needed a gas station, back then were called filling stations, for those of you who probably don't remember that. He opened a filling station. They needed lumber, he opened a lumber yard. They needed appliances, they needed hardware, they needed plumbing, they needed electrical. He opened all those little businesses in this little town of 250 people that serviced the farmland of Iowa. And those were my beginnings. They don't tell about the part that I was in an abusive marriage for 28 years that I never spoke about, even after I was divorced, until just this week. And I've decided it's time for me to now stand and speak out about that. They don't say that at age 50, at my birthday party, I looked at those pictures and said, who is that woman that weighed 250 pounds? When they introduced me, they don't tell the part about that I was divorced at age 56, and I basically had to start over in life. It took everything I had, everything I'd ever saved, stocks, bonds, gold, silver, rare coins, life insurance policies, savings accounts, whatever we had to buy, this is a 50% state community property. So whatever we had, my husband owned 50% of, to buy him out. When I was finished with that long process and the year-and-a-half trial that cost $350,000, only the lawyers win then, I was virtually penniless. But I had my company intact. That's the only thing that mattered to me. I sold anything I had to keep that company free and clear, debt-free, the way it always had been, and my house. So I started over again at age 56. I'm 64. That's 8 years. But I had the energy, the drive, the passion to do it again. Now, I'm still not ready to retire, so I'm going to keep working some. So anybody that needs someone that really likes to work hard, just call me. I'll be working cheap in about a year. But sometimes people say things on me, on Facebook and all that I'm accomplishing, and they think if I were to rip open my shirt, there would be this big W in the middle of my chest that would say, wow, there's a Wonder Woman, look all she's done. Let me tell you, there is not a W under there. What is under there is the same thing that's inside yours. It's just a heart. And my heart, you'd see a bunch of scars, you'd see some stitches, you'd see a bandage wrapped around it, but you'd see it's still strong. You'd still see it's still beating. It still is fueled by the passion of life. That's what's inside, not a W. When they say, oh, there's a Wonder Woman inside of all of us, oh, yeah. that Wonder Woman is made by that heart that has passed through all those different things. So I looked at the list of things that Clint had lined up for this week, for this year, on Silicon Slopes Lecture Series. And I read through some of the topics. Steps to a successful company. No, that's not why he asked me. Company culture. No, he didn't ask me for that. Evaluate a startup idea. No, I didn't ask me for that. Building customer excellence. No, I don't think that's it. Building a sales organization. I've done all those things. But that's not why Clint asked me, just so you know. The reason Clint asked me is because I don't believe that in these kind of situations, we talked enough about the person inside. You build about all these different kind of things on how to do this, how to do this, how to do this, how to do this. But the first place you have to start to decide if you are an entrepreneur, if you have what it takes to make it out there in this dog-eat-dog business world, is here. Now, how many classes you take, now what school you graduated from, all those things are niceties that you get to hang on your wall. But whether or not you're going to make it, you've got to start here. Of all the people in this room, I can tell you right now, I was the most unlikely of all of you to ever be successful. So it's not about having the best idea. It's not about being the most connected in the room. It's not about being the best salesperson. What it is about is having vision. Not just a great idea, but be able to see that idea way off in the distance and where it can become. When I started with my company, obviously I was pulling a little red wagon. I would dress up as a clown and do children's birthday parties with a big clown hat on, and I look like kids to play little games. I would do it all. I would do whatever it took to make this company successful, not because I wanted to be a clown in a suit, but because I saw way off. And I was willing to do whatever it took to make way off happen. Not just the idea, but the vision. The next thing is critical, is passion. I often say when people ask me, what advice do you have to give to people who want to go into the food service industry? I say pretty much don't. Because it is an industry that eats people alive. 5% of restaurants that open, stay open. 95% failure rate. Is that a business you want to jump into? But people do. But what keeps the people there and makes them last is not if they have enough capital behind them, even though that's helpful. It's not even if they had the vision. If they have passion. Being in the hospitality industry is one of those things that you have to have passion about or it will eat you alive. Pretty much anything that you decide you want to be into, that you're going to devote your life to, your life's work, has to have passion. Now this passion thing is an interesting thing between the chicken and the egg. Which came first? Do you have passion about that which you persist in doing? Or do you have passion about it and then you become really good at it? I've debated that back and forth in my mind a lot, and I think I can go either way. If you do something long enough and you become really good at it, you develop a kind of passion for it that is unstoppable. But maybe it works the other way around. You have a passion for jewelry, my kindred spirit here in the front row. And she has a passion for what's going on there. And that's driving her to excellence. Taking her to a road of how she's creating and seeing a vision. She started with the passion first, and it's driving her. You can really go either direction. For me, I did not start out with a passion for food. I just needed to put food in my kids' mouth. I didn't care what I did. I only had one goal, and that was I did not want to have to put my children in daycare. When I realized I was going to be the primary breadwinner in my family, that was my big goal. Don't put your children in daycare. Keep them with you. So what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Keep my children at home. Let's see. I taught voice lessons. I taught piano lessons. Sold Avon door to door. This was not making very much money. Let's see. Hey, what if I could be a caterer? never worked in the food industry before. Sure love to cook, love to throw parties. Yep, I can be a caterer. That need, that primary piece here set my feet on a road that led me to now having the greatest passion for what I do. I never work a day in my life, you hear this all the time, if you love what you do. I honestly can say that. I love going to work today as much as I did day one, in fact, way more than I did in day one. Day one was hard, okay? This now, people look to me, kind of like, I used to say, the Martha Stewart of Utah. But let's just hope I'm way more than Martha. That's all I can say. But that not only do I know how to make something look pretty in a little pretty basket, but that I have a heart and a soul about what is behind food, about what food creates for you. Food became part of your life from the moment you suckled at your mother's breast and created an experience there. To when you had food around the dinner table, you have memories around Thanksgiving, around Christmas, around Halloween. Whenever you break bread with something, oh, excuse me, do I have passion about this? Damn straight. But I didn't start with it. I became good at it, and I developed passion about it. So you can go either direction. You don't have to think, oh, what's my passion? What's my passion? What's my passion? Mary talked about passion. I don't know if I have one. Just be good at what you do. Be the best at what you do. People don't want to hire people who are not the expert. People don't call me up and ask me to cater and do something, and I come and sit down with them. Recently catered Josh James' wedding. When I went in, if I went in and said, well, never catered a wedding for you before. Let's see, I really don't know really what you want or how to do this, but let's get started. And you want to do that? Well, I've never done that before, but I would not have lasted 2 seconds in his presence. Instead, he hired me because I was what? I was an expert. I knew exactly how to do what he wanted. I knew how to execute it. I knew how to make it happen. I knew who to hire. Whatever you do, be the best at it. People don't want to hire you if you're just so-so. They hire you because you're the best at what you do. You're an expert in your field. Whatever you do, find something that you can be better at, best at, pushes you there. And if you didn't have passion about it before, you go there. Last thing that it's about, remember, it wasn't about an idea. It wasn't about being connected. It wasn't about being a good salesperson. It wasn't about having all the money in the world to fund your project. About vision, passion, and last of all, resilience. I have come to learn to love this concept. I didn't have it in my mind before. I called it commitment. And I liked commitment. Commitment's good. Commitment's a good word, and I use it a lot. But it's a little bit different than resilience. And people have said to me, Mary, how could you start over here? Because my childhood wasn't particularly easy either. And go through life, this marriage, this tough, these weight problems, these fear problems, these insecurity problems, these problems of not being enough, and end up over here. This woman of strength and passion and fortitude and energy. I've got more energy at 64 than most of you do right now. How did you do that? It's the concept of resilience. That you can pass through whatever it is you have to be, whatever it is you have to do, whatever it is that you believe you've been a victim of, and end up resilient, stronger at the other side. I thought a lot about this concept of resilience, and I read a book that's one of my favorite books of all time. It's called Resilience. It's by Eric Gibbons. He was a Navy SEAL. Have you read that book? You're nodding your head. Okay, great book, huh? One of the concepts that he talks about is the concept of fear and resilience. And he says, prior to going into a mission, this is when they're just in the training to become a SEAL. Somebody, when I went over the edge of just this last week, said, well, you could be a Navy SEAL. I said, no, I've read that book. Not gonna do that, thank you very much. But they talk about the missions that you have to go into, and one of them is like, swim some crazy amount of minutes underwater, do this, do that, this crazy things. Anyway, he said that as they laid out the missions, and then you had a time of thinking. They would lay out the mission in advance, 3 or 4 days in advance, and then you had a time of just waiting for the mission to start. And this is how they found out if you were resilient. This sounds like it was hell on earth, this mission. And you'd be darn lucky if you survived it. And then they let you think about it. And you think. And you think. And there's a bell that you can ring if you want out. If anyone looks at the bell, they know before they're done, they will ring it. Never look at the bell. Never look for your way out. And where they would lose people was right here. The fear of going on to the mission. They quit. The fear of not being able to complete. The fear of not doing it. That's where they lost people. Never, not once, in the middle of the mission. So they lost people because of fear, but never in the mission. Why not in the mission? When you're right in the middle of what was that greatest thing you feared. Because they had a greater mission. They had a greater purpose. Once you're in the mission, every single member of that team is critical. If you leave, the whole team fails. And no one leaves there. So take that in life. I think that's kind of what happened to me. I was in the middle of all this craziness things, and there were many things in my life I quit right at that point, right before I could have broke through, but I didn't. But once I made the decision to push through, I never quit because I had a greater mission. Something that was more important to me than anything else, than life itself, and that was my family. Being there for those 3 children. What would happen to them if I left? If I gave up? If I quit? I couldn't do it. So that year after year built a resilience inside of me to take those struggles, those missions, and make me stronger at the end. Not that I did it in one big swoop. And neither will you. There were so many times I walked up to here and I quit. My biggest thing to overcome as a child and as a young woman, in fact a woman until I was 50, was fear of anything physical, that I would fail. Now my husband, who I have now, just can't relate to this. I mean, he's the kind of guy that went out and took the bully out in the schoolyard and put him in a trash can. He just doesn't know anything about physical fear. He just, played football, just, either way. He knows about emotional fear, but he doesn't know about physical fear, the fear of failing. And so I would get like, I think about the amount of things I missed out as a mother. My kids are like, Mom, we're going to go up the canyon, and we're going to go hiking. Oh, I really want to go. I totally want to go with you. I totally. I'm planning on it. Come that morning, I don't know what happened. I just in the night got something terrible in my lungs. I can't go. But you go ahead. I missed out on every single one of those opportunities to ski with my children, to be with my children. My first, my honeymoon, when Rick and I just got married, he said to me, one of the things I want to do is go hiking. What? Oh, jeez, fear, hiking. And then I found out when I went, hiking's just walking outside. What a good, it's always a great secret people are keeping from us. But for me, that overcoming fear is the thing. I had fear as a child of being rejected. I had fears of people laughing at me. I had fears of physical violence. I lived in that little small town. I was the only girl in my class that lived in town. The rest of them all lived on farms. So after school, all the boys would gang up on me. Kick me, beat me, throw rocks at me. I grew up with that fear. Now, even now, I have to look in the mirror at myself You can do this if I'm going to walk onto a schoolyard full of children. Children, small children. But I do it. It's way easier to come here than to do that for me. So this concept of resilience is the number one lesson, the first thing you have to learn in flight school, and that's letting go of fear. I want you to look inside of yourself of what things you're afraid of. Now, you may not have been afraid of any of the things that I've been afraid of, but everybody has the same basic fears. They may take different shape, but they have fears of failing, of being rejected, of being alone, of being hurt. Those are all fears we all have. And the moment you can look inside and begin to deal with those fears, then you become unstoppable. I think about that little beautiful bird standing there with his wings tucked underneath and just screaming out, "All right, let's fly!" What's happening? Nothing. I can't fly. No one ever learned to fly with their wings tucked under. Those little birds had to have the courage. They watched everyone else do it. Okay, now, fly! Nothing's happening. You have to have the courage to put your part into it. You put your wings out, and then start flapping, for crying out loud. Start flapping! And run towards the edge. And when you get there, you keep going, and you keep flapping. Even when it looks like the ground is coming up right at you, you keep flapping. And pretty soon, you get an updraft. And you learn to fly. I've spent so many years, the last 8 years of my life, just flying along and just learning. I have learned how to fly, and I was loving it, I was loving it, I was loving it. Only recently have I learned the difference between that and soaring. There's a big difference. This takes effort, and you're willing to do it, and you're loving every minute of it, but then you catch something that lifts you to soaring. But not before you go through every single one of these other steps. People say now about the millennials this, millennials that. Which one? The fears my grandmother had, the fears my mom has, the fears my daughter has, the fears I have, they're all the same. All still basic fears. So when I decided to make a change in my life, that day came for me about 15 years ago. And we were on the Sydney Bridge in Sydney, Australia. And my family wanted to go up over the bridge. And I was at the moment of choice, like that, always have been. I can't quite, not feeling my back, can't go up there today, sorry. I was in the bathroom of the Sydney Harbor, just shaking, just terrified. My daughter was waiting outside. Mom, they're all waiting for us. I'm like, oh. I know you, my old friend. You are fear. And not today. I stood up and I hit that bathroom door open and I came out of there like all hell had been listening. I said, let's go! Mom, are you okay? Yes, let's go up over that bridge. We walked outside, we got the boys, I said, let's go. We went upstairs, we went up there, we crawled up, we went over and I peed my pants, but that was okay, those poor people down below. I went up that bridge. And when I got back down, I realized I could do that. I had what it took to do that. That was one little piece. When I got home, I went and I bought my first gym membership. I never stepped a foot in a gym. I've never been on a track. I stood in the back row of Gold's Gym in my black sweatpants, walked 15 minutes, got off, went home. I've been going to that gym now for 14 years. At age 64, I'm the strongest woman in that gym. People say to me, Mary, you wear a lot of those leggings a lot. That's because I'm damn tired of wearing those sweatpants for so many years. And when I see those women working out at the gym, not on my watch. I go home, get out of the car. Rick, come help me out of the car. Got somebody really strong at the gym today. Yeah, it was really bad. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to keep that up. But it's a goal for me. It's a challenge for me. It's out there. It keeps me living, passion, energy. 9 months from now, I step back from my company. Not because I'm ready. That's not right. 9 months from now, I step back from my company. And I'm ready. I've worked hard. I've worked years, probably 2 decades, on 4 hours of sleep a night. Now I get about 6. That's good. I'm ready because I have another thing to launch. More fear. Time to put my sign back up on my mirror. It was up there for a decade. It said this, Mary, what would you do today if you were no longer afraid? I put that sign back up on my mirror on Saturday morning because I knew that on Friday of that week, last week, I was going over the edge. Over the edge of a 15-story foot building in Salt Lake City. I was going over the edge to raise funds for the Children's Justice Center, the Family Justice Center, who deals with people who are healing from domestic violence. I knew it was time for me not only to donate to the cause, but to stand for something. When I arrived that morning, after looking at my mirror all week, what would you do today if you were no longer afraid? That sign had helped me through so many things. A year ago, I lived in this valley. I'd never climbed Timp. And the day I chose was September 13th of 2016. Waited all summer for it. When the day came, I looked out. It had snowed. There's snow on Timp. There's snow on Timp. September 13th, there's snow on Timp. Everything rushed in my mind. This could be just like everything else you've done in your life. You could make an excuse. You could say, oh, it snowed. Too bad, I can't go. I have to wait till next year. I looked at my sign and I said, what would you do today if you were no longer afraid? I would climb Timp even if it had snow on it. And I did. I put my sign back up. You're going to go over the edge. When I arrived that morning, I looked at that building. I thought I was going to feel afraid. I was not. But I was so emotional. I was filled with just tears coming out. When I realized, first of all, that I was not afraid. I was no longer afraid of physical things. I could scramble up the side of the mountain with my hiking boots like nobody else. I was not afraid. But I was so emotional because that building represented to me the process, the metamorphosis, the breaking out of that cocoon, throwing my wings out and flapping them and flying. That building going over the edge represented now being ready, now strong enough to lift others. It's been a good month for me. What time is it? Okay, 5 minutes. It's been a good month. I've loved this month. See, I told you it's a good thing I write this, but I never look at it. You start looking at the beginning, you're like, okay, you're over here looking, you're not paying attention, just let that go. Just talk what's in your heart. That's why I said, don't you have a PowerPoint? No, because I've talked about what's on there, rather than it just comes to me. So, you get what's in here. So it's been a good month. Went to Greece. That was my bucket list. Jumped off the side of a building. I didn't know that was on my bucket list. It was a great thing. Out of the blue, got on a plane, flew to Houston. Worked on a demolition crew with Recovery Houston. First day, I used a sledgehammer. Took out sheetrock. Next day, I asked if I could do the detail work. I mean, I wasn't used to swinging a sledgehammer for 8 hours. So I did detail work. I took out my little chisel and chiseled out the corners of all the sheetrock. But then the third day, I was ready for the sledgehammer again. That was an amazing experience. On day 3, I met Miss Gloria. Miss Gloria, she was the most wonderful black woman you ever seen in your life. Miss Gloria, she was about 80. She just had one little chair left. She sat out in front of her house. And she wanted help, so she'd come in. She's sweet. Behind everybody who was taken out of her house. Sweet, sweet. I said, Miss Gloria, you don't have any furniture left. And I said, you have to do a lot here. What's happening in your home? And she said, well, Recovery Houston, they're helping me some. So I don't have to spend my money from FEMA on my house. And I said, how much did you get from FEMA? $10,000. I'm thinking in my head, this is a $100,000 project. To replace everything in her house. I mean, I did what I could for her, and then just before I left, I thought, maybe I can just like do something. Maybe she'd like a TV, or maybe she'd like something. And so I said to her, I said, Miss Gloria, I said, if you could have anything that you wanted back that you lost, that you know you don't have the money for, and you know FEMA isn't going to pay for it, what would it be? She pointed over there, underneath an overhang on the house. I wish somebody fixed my dining room table. What? My dining room table. I wish somebody fixed it. I said, you can have anything you want. You could even sit a car. I could. I said, but you sit a dining room table. She goes, they took everything out of my house and put it out there, and they came and picked it up at the front loader. I waited out here until I found some people asking me to come help me pull my dining room table back. She's like, I fixed my table. It's where my family ate around. It's my life around this table. I'm not sure yet how I'm fixing the Gloria's table, but I promised her I was fixing that table. So much easier to go online at Amazon, order a TV, have it delivered. Fix this table in piles? I didn't even know where to begin. I didn't even know anybody. But the world has a way of helping you flap your wings. And now I found the company. They're called Furniture Medic. They're going to come and they're going to pick up Miss Gloria's table. It costs more to repair that table. I could buy 10 new tables. So I said, what if I come down and do some of the work? So I'm going to go back down and do some of the sanding and refinishing. I'm going to take the table to Miss Gloria. That's the story. Must be something else in these notes I was supposed to say because, you know, I wrote them all down. Spent an hour this morning thinking about it. Okay. So I guess we'll just kind of put it down. I just want to say one last thing. All the spreadsheets, all the Google Docs, all the P&Ls, all the software in the world, I'm not going to take you where you want to go without first looking inside. You think you might be able to step aside this step? You could do it at age 50, or you could do it today. Start looking. Ask yourself when you get home, what really is it that I'm afraid of? I'm afraid of nothing. What's she talking about? Keep looking. Everything that makes you just a little bit uncomfortable, look at it. Where's it come from? Why? You out there making money? Money's your big thing. You gotta make money. Why? Are you afraid of not having money? Are you afraid what that says about you if you don't have money? Keep going. Keep down. And when you get there and you begin to overcome those fears, then you get to soar. All right. Thank you.
Okay, keyword on your attendance slip obviously is going to be fear. That was a really fascinating aspect. You have time for a couple of questions. If anybody wants to ask some questions, feel free to ask those very loudly. Okay? Anybody?
Seriously, I did
Right
teach
here.
everything I did.
There you go.
Pat?
What are you going to do in 9 months? You said you had an idea what you're going to do after you leave your company.
Well, I thought about several different things. The Unique Foundation has reached out to me and thought maybe I could, but that's their dream. And I love that foundation. I've donated to it, worked hard for it. I thought about talking to Scott and coming to work for Business Salt Lake. And then I thought, what would you do if you were no longer afraid at this age? Okay, I'm saying it here, I'm putting it out. See, I'm still afraid. Afraid you're going to laugh at me, afraid you're going to do the house, afraid you're going to think I'm nuts, think I'm going to like... I realized that I have worked 34 years at my business in marketing, and I am a good marketer. And I've been building the brand of Culinary Crafts. But I've also been building the brand of Mary Crafts. And I didn't realize that, how strong my personal brand was. So I'm going to leverage that. And I'm going to launch a company, Mary Crafts Inc. Woo-hoo! And I don't know quite what it all encompasses, but I do know that it's international speaking. I do know that it's writing a book entitled, What Would I Do Today If I Were No Longer Afraid? I know that it's some podcast. Thank you, Clint. You got me started. I know that it is doing something with philanthropic work where we all lift each other. I don't know how all those pieces come together, but I'm excited to find out. Anything else?
Mary, I was going to ask you, you've been involved in helping a lot of causes, so Live United and the one you mentioned going over the
Yeah.
15 stories. What are some of your favorite organizations that you've enjoyed being involved with?
I love the United Way. I served on their board for a long time, and we started a group called Women in Philanthropy, and I left that organization because they were going a different direction than what I was. But I love that idea of helping women break the glass ceiling, of getting away from fear. Not that men don't have fear. You guys have fear. It just sometimes looks different than ours. And it's been okay for men to, break through walls, but not necessarily women. And I believe that somewhere it will be my philanthropic entity will be involved around that. Whether that's women here in the United States or women in foreign countries. And I'm going to the top of Kilimanjaro. And the organization that I love called
Days for Girls?
What?
Days for Girls?
Days for Girls. Days for Girls helps and provides young women feminine hygiene products because in the countries where they live in, they're not available. And so they have to stay home a week of every month to handle the periods they have. If they want feminine hygiene products, there's a place you go in town that you have sex with men who then provide you products, and then you can go to school. So it's an amazing organization. And they asked me when I go to the top of Kilimanjaro, would I take a period with me, a big black round period. I love that once again, that finding a place for women. And I'm all about having men having needs as well. But we're talking here centuries of overcoming a lot of things. I want to help.
Thanks, everybody.